I'm on my way to meet James Tumusiime. During Idi Amin's reign in the 1970s, he became highly successful with a cartoon character called Ekanya, a daredevil vagabond published in the Voice of Uganda. He fled when Milton Obote became head of state in 1981. After Yoweri Museveni came into power in 1986, Tumusiime came back and co-founded the state-owned New Vision newspaper and Fountain Publishers. How did you start drawing cartoons?
Dr. Willy Tumusiime, my namesake, who was doing a cartoon strip in the Voice of Uganda, had fled to Jamaica. So I said, I'm capable of replacing this man. So I went to Voice of Uganda, I met the editor-in-chief. I had done my own cartoon in Nyankore name called Rwata. Rwata is also like a Kanya, meaning kind of vagabond, somebody who does chaotic. And so I took it to him and he said, no, you stick to a Kanya.
Why had Rusheji fled?
Again, I think he must have antagonized maybe one cartoon, misunderstood. He didn't tell me. But I think there was the general insecurity. And you were being a very senior doctor in Mulago. It was easy to antagonize. And even your junior, anybody who was connected to Amin could kill you. So there was that general insecurity. And the place where he came from was a UPC area. So he must also have been suspected that he was a sympathizer of Obote.
Locally, apart from Rusheji, was there any other inspiration from a cartoonist?
I think bar jokes. We never went to bars, we would crack jokes. And you know, that was during Amin's time, there were hushed voices about him. The people would be talking underground and cracking some jokes. And now when people discovered that I was doing the cartoons, they started sending me, calling me. You know, they might say, Mr. Tumusiime, have you heard about this? Have you heard about this one? Have you heard this? You go to church and the preachers are preaching about the Kanya. You go to, yes, so it became very popular.
The focus was mostly social because of the political conditions.
Yes, we tried to avoid the political areas. Anything to do with politics would be misunderstood. And even religious-wise, because Amin was a Muslim, and his people who were hanging around him were very strict. One of the senior editors was a Muslim, and I think a royalist to Amin. So he told me, you better watch out. This is not good for you.
Were there other cartoonists around that time that you remember?
So when Rusheji left, there was nothing else except the one I started drawing. It is after some time that Drink Water came.
Yes. Were you in touch in any way with those other cartoonists?
I didn't even know him. I think he would come wherever he was working, drop it in and go. We hadn't met at all. We didn't have a community.
Apart from politics and religion, were there any other topics that were avoided at the time?
I think those were the most sensitive. The rest we could really wander into sports, family matters, school, football, anywhere, as long as it did not touch Idi Amin and was not seen to denigrate Islam.
Was he scripted, the Kanya character? He was supposed to take on a particular role, a social role, or depictions?
Kanya was the central character. And all the others, whether it was in a bar, whether it was in a restaurant, whether it was in a clinic, whether it was in a church, he still met the church, the reverends, he still met the waiters, he still met the doctors, but he was the subject of humor with those people. You need somebody whom people can refer to for any situation. Something that you can't mention, which decency forbids you to say. You attribute it to somebody else. You are the one who would say what other people fear to say.
Would that permission even be able to allow him to stretch into politics sometimes?
Now that's the risk. Your sense of judgment would guide you. Yes, but for you, you've come at a time when there is so much liberty and freedom and you can say anything. But in our time when you are talking about Idi Amin, they could shoot you there and then. And it was not deliberate. Somebody went to a butchery and asked for a head of a pig or something. And the butcher said, can't you see I have a head of a human being? I don't have a pig's head. And I mean, that night they had killed the archbishop. And they were referring to Amin as a butcher. So he said, this man is talking about you. So his intelligence people came to pick me. So I had to run. I had a relative working in Makerere and I hid in his small flat in West Road. So when they say, you are saying that you have got a head of it, they say, this is Amin. They are talking about Idi Amin. Well, the cartoon didn't appear for some time in the paper. So I think there was a lot of...
It was stopped for a moment.
Yes, for some weeks. And there was a lot of complaints, I think, even I'm sure the soldiers. So I think there must have been some pressure. They must have negotiated and said, you bring back. So when I went back, I said, you give me more money. Now I'm not going to risk.
But you didn't have fears going back after that?
No, I just avoided pigs.
There seems to be some progress after Amin, 1979, 1980. What had changed?
There was more tolerance, relatively. Although there was still a lot of murders which were unexplained. But I think those were associated with political vengeance, maybe financial dealings, but they were not targeting these social cartoons, no. I felt more secure, but until towards the end, when we were heading for elections in 1980, December, I had done a cartoon about the political parties, how they were looking at the elections, and they were where you had DP, UPC, UPM, Conservative Party. And at that time, I had gone with Honorable James Tumusiime because I had applied for a vehicle. And so I had to see Muwanga himself. He was acting president. James Tumusiime was one of the editors of Weekly Topic. But they were friends politically. And I had gone with him to Muwanga's office. And then they said, look at this man, look at this cartoonist, what he's saying.
Did they know it was you?
Muwanga didn't know. James Tumusiime knew, because we had published it in his newspaper. But I still got the car. He authorized the car. And so there was relative freedom at the time.
Also, no incident really happened, like arresting you or harassing you?
The nearest I came to being arrested was that in 1977. After that, I think I was regarded as a clown. They didn't feel I should arrest a clown.
That's what protected you. Like a madman.
Yes, if you are a clown, how why should you arrest a clown?
Yeah.
I noticed that for many cartoons, the ones of Drinkwater, the one of JJS, there seems to be a particular stereotype about women around that time, women as prostitutes. And since Ekanya was commenting so much about women, the wife was often a character.
Yes.
What was the position of women in your Ekanya strip?
Women here are punching bags of men. They generate a lot of humor. There's a lot of humor around women. We love them, we tease them, we kick them, we torture them, we buy them. So there's a lot around women. And our women have accepted that position. So, and there's a lot of humor around social life, in bars, buying prostitutes, marrying, sleeping with your secretaries, sleeping with other people's wives.
Would it have been just innocent humor, or it was also meant to frame or construct women in a particular way?
I think this is a stereotype that we have inherited everywhere. I find that even in the Western culture, the way women are depicted. They never want to age. They love money. So it's a stereotype that is part of humanity. Okay, now the women liberation has come to change most of that, but until that time, women accepted to be kicked around. As long as you buy them a beer in the evening, you can call them anything.
So you didn't ever run into any trouble?
In Kenya, yes. In Uganda, not so much. No. They didn't mind. Or at least they were not organized enough to raise a voice.
So not even individuals complained?
They would complain to you when you're in the bar. But you could quickly brush that aside and by buying another beer.
At 100 years of age, John Sserwanga Ssentongo is still working at Radio Buddu in Masaka. He started as a journalist for Uganda Yogera in the 1960s, the official newspaper of the Buganda Kingdom.
Tuli mu kibuga kya Ssaabasajja Kabaka Ronald Muwenda Mutebi w'okubiri Masaka era mbeera ne Ssentongo John Ssentongo
Mwandise
Muteesa wali omumanyi bulungi
yali mukwano gwange nambeemu.
His cartoons in the Taifa Mpya newspaper in the early 1970s depicted the day-to-day struggles of ordinary citizens.
Abantu abali ku lubiri awo n'abali mu Kampala abawulira emmundu ezo ne tubeera ku bunkeeke.
Finally, I meet you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy to meet you. Yeah, thank you. The first Ugandan cartoonist, should I say so?
I think I was the first Ugandan cartoonist.
Cartoonist. Wow. Wow, it's such an honor to be in your presence, especially me as a cartoonist. I started drawing cartoons in 2006. Now meeting someone who was drawing cartoons in the 70s,
In the 60s.
in 60s, much before I was born.
Sure. Kutambula kulaba bota
byolabye gwobinyumya lady ndabala basibikisa kutambula kulaba boda byolabye gwobinyumya lady ndabala basibikisa.
I don't know whether I should be addressing you as Mzee because I don't.
I'm already Mzee at the age of 100 years. I'm already belong to
The easiest is to use JJSS.
JJSS. Yeah.
When exactly did you start?
But one time, we net down the Kabaka passing from Lubiri to Bulange. We clapping our hands to receive the Kabaka. I saw some 3 gentlemen holding notebooks and the camera. So I said, but these people are not kneeling down. They said that they are newspapers made. I said, so they have got freedom. So I decided that no, I think I would like to be a journalist. I started corresponding with the Uganda Yogera newspapers, free. Salary was 300 shillings per month. And I used to travel Masaka looking for newspaper at 300, but 300 was something very big. 300 was a lot of money. 300. Uganda Yogera came out, they said, John Jones. So I became very famous. And then Typhoon Pia invited me, said that, how much are you getting there? I said, for 300 shillings. He said, we are giving you 450 per month. I said, I went to Typhoon, and I became a very, very famous.
And then the cartoons, when do you start drawing the cartoons?
When I joined Typhoon Pia, I found that there were no cartoons, but in Uganda, August, I could see cartoons. I talked to the editor that, why don't we adopt these cartoons? He said that, but who is going to do the cartoons? He said, let me try. He said, the editor said, okay, you try.
I can imagine. I looked at them, I like your style.
You like them.
Yeah.
So I become very serious, and people liked very much my cartoons. And once they liked the cartoons, they must buy papers. And the paper used to cost 20 cents. And
Yeah. Were you inspired by any particular person
No.
in adopting the style
no,
that you
no,
adopted?
no.
You just came up with your own style.
Without my style. And never consulted to any. But whenever I saw cartoons in newspapers, I used to get them, study them.
Now, looking at these cartoons, it appears you mainly focused on social themes like drinking, like dressing,
Yeah.
moral, social issues.
Because it depends to readers to attract
Or to attract
readers.
Oh, that means
Yeah.
it's the kinds of issues that...
Yeah, once you make very good cartoons, you attract leaders. And once a leader sees a cartoon, he loves the story. And he wishes that almost every story must have a cartoon. But it's up to the editor to decide what story is to have a cartoon.
Oh, during those times, would the editors suggest to you that maybe...
Yes,
focus
I
on
never
social
suggested myself.
life?
Whenever I came to the office, the editor himself said that, oh, John, there's a story here. He gives you the story. And he said that, can you have a cartoon of this story? So you go and sit down, concentrate, and make out the cartoon. Produce it before him. He inspects it and approves it, gives it to the...
Oh, so that means you did not have the liberty to choose.
No. They could probably cancel the cartoon, but most of my cartoons were being accepted.
There is this one. Do you remember that one and what it was about?
There was a story that came out. A gentleman wanted to pay some fees to a girl so that she removes her dress.
bw'oba tosuna kyenkubuulira kya nsonga ebiyiika by'oyagala kwatirira mu ntuulo.
I remember it happened, and the girl wanted to be paid some amount of money, and she willingly
stripped when it was
used her dresses for the payment.
There was this song, I don't know whether you still recall, Nambwere.
Nambwera olwawulira ebyo n'akyamuka n'ajjako akawuwo n'akuntuulango.
Which seems to be about the same subject.
I think because by the time I was in Kampala, and there was a name, Nambwere. I think she was a certain girl who was playing sex happily.
Or like sort of a prostitute.
Oh yes.
For how long did you draw around that time before you stopped?
I think I may have stopped drawing cartoons in 1966.
Oh, 1966.
1960, because I was very much friendly to the Kabaka. And I was one who reported news against Obote.
As a friend to the Kavaka, you would not be seen drawing cartoons at
So,
the same time.
Obote attacked the Rubiri, and he wanted to kill the Kabaka and abolish kingdomship. We thought the Kabaka had been killed in the palace, but unfortunately, people would trick him in hiding to Mahogora. Amongst his servants in Uganda, he only invited me, nobody else, to his hiding place in Mahogora.
That is when he was going to run into exile.
Yeah, from Mahogora, then he was taken to Rwanda, and he got a plane, flew to London.
So then you wait until Amin comes to power. That's when you resume.
And, when I had resumed. Okay. And I think I was the only African cartoonist
at the time.
At the time.
So and other papers didn't have.
No. Other papers could not afford having, and it's not easy to be a cartoonist. Yeah, I understand you're a cartoonist. You know how difficult it is to.
Yeah, it takes a lot of thinking.
And thinking. Once I used to hide myself. You've got to be appreciated by leaders.
But looking at this time, Amin is in power.
Yeah,
1972, you're drawing cartoons.
Yes.
But also the political environment at the time, the fear.
Yeah.
As a cartoonist, would you have the liberty to draw about politics?
My editor didn't like to, because Amin was a bit tough. And the editor feared very much that our paper could sometimes be abolished by the government. So we stopped cartooning in newspapers.
Or maybe that's why you mostly focused on social issues.
Social issues.
Family,
yeah, that's true. And we could not very much enter into politics.
Okay, and at that time, I understand Amin had passed a number of decrees on miniskirts, on beards, on a number of things.
Yes.
And I also see that many of your cartoons seem to criticize the same things that Amin had decreed against. The papers were trying to appear to be...
Not to be against the government.
Okay. Like they were helping government realize... To
realize. In fact, newspapers and these cartoons forecast what's good in the country. We were very much interested in general common people. What would they like? Yeah.
Do you remember any cartoon having put you in trouble? Any of the cartoons you drew in your career as a cartoonist?
No. Wherever I pass, people liked very much my cartoons, and they never knew who does what's wrong, who does so. But I used to go, say, in drinking places, and they said, "Oh, my dear, come and see this."
Why wouldn't you write your names in full?
My heart didn't prefer so. So
It could have been for your security still.
I thought some leaders would even come to hate the cartoonist.
Someone might not be happy about
Yeah.
it. and they
So
come for you.
I feared people will not like who, and they would perhaps take time to know JJS means what.
So you would have to hide behind.
I had to hide.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I'm looking for work of a cartoonist from the 1970s. He's called Drinkwater, but his work was in a newspaper called Voice of Uganda, specifically 1975.
Okay.
Between 1975 and 1976, Willy Ochaya, a cartoonist and photographer known under the pseudonym Drinkwater, drew more than 100 cartoons for the Voice of Uganda. His work was political and daring, covering Pan-African and women's rights issues. In much of his work, the tongue turned to the aching tooth. He now lives in the US.
I'm quite happy to meet you. Although we are meeting online, it's indeed a pleasure.
Same here.
Yeah, just a little introduction. I'm Jimmy Spire Ssentongo. I teach at Makerere, but I'm also a cartoonist. I've been drawing for the Observer. So there is a bit of a connection between what you were doing then and what I'm doing now.
Oh yes, your work are quite inspiring, and I understand you've been persevering, going through all the issue and the trend that are going on right now, and compared to what we were doing during Idi Amin time. I started with Drink H2.
Which year was that?
That was about 75. I was picking topical issue and some of the event that the Amin were engaged in and presenting it in form of cartoon.
Were you inspired by any specific person or it's something you just picked up?
What inspired me quite a lot is the event that were taking place in Uganda. And looking at the Kenya, I was not happy with the presentation. Then I thought, well, why don't I come with something different? And that is what really inspired me quite a lot to do that. So I started develop first of all the drink S2O, but then with the demand, they wanted it to be a weekly presentation. So what I did is also move from drink H2O to Mosaic Kijana.
Why had you adopted H2O? Drink H2O?
Drink H2O just developed because people see me signing my name, Drink H2O.
and came to the conclusion that when you do this, you end up drinking water in the river because you are not going to stay. The main agent could just drop you there, and you go ahead and drink the water, and that's the end of it. People started asking, "Who is this drink H2O?" And they could not find who I was because during the day I'm in front of Idi Amin taking press conference, so that baffled many people. The only people that knew me were the professor in the Department of Education because they were a very keen supporter of my work. You could see me during the press conference as a photographer or a photojournalist, but you don't know who is the cartoonist. That's how I kept myself.
Oh, you didn't feel like you lost out on credit for not being known for those who loved your work?
No, that during Idi Amin, you have to be very careful, and even journalists, some of the photojournalists, and if you are known to be doing something, you disappeared. So I have to be very careful, and even my fan would warn me, be very careful, especially when the Janani Lewum was murdered, and all the Acholi who were at Makerere started leaving the country. I was with another professor also from Makerere, and we were able to get out of the Uganda on the other side.
What were the major topics that you used to cover at the time? Was it so political that people had to fear for you, and even you having to use a different identity?
Yeah, I think it was a mix, both political and entertainment. When you are quite stern on political issue, you are putting also your life in danger. So you have to be very careful what you present. So those who with political ideology, they can understand when I draw it in political sense. But the common man would see if I try to elaborate on the situation about the economy and how their life has gone to drain, and you might find people going to the garbage to pick up food to eat. Or when it refers to some of the government, will be like police doing all the thing to get some money. And that also developed into mafuta mingi. Mafuta mingi are those people who are getting bribed from their sidewalk, like the police, the traffic officers, and all those. And they start developing big stomach, And the Mosaic Zana is those officers plus the president who get into activities that common man and a simple man and young people are engaged in. So I had to illustrate some of those issues and events in order to either to encourage, either to please, or either to highlight some of the issues that are going on in the country.
Or the name Mzee Kijana. What inspired that name?
All the different issues and policy that Idi Amin come with fall under the Mosaic genre. When he's doing his humorous thing, he would behave like a young man. All young men, doing all this and that and that. And most of his mafuta mingi would be behaving the same way. So the Mosaic genre has got a lot of social impact and meaning that people can easily relate to.
But it also allows you to discuss sensitive topics about Idi Amin and his people comfortably.
Yes, that they could not even pinpoint that was actually mosaic genre talking about him. So yeah, it was quite hysterical. And I've seen, for instance, like you, and then Ogon, for the economic development, you have used the milking cow. I use milking cow also in that sense that the people like Idi Amin and the Kakwa, who are quite many in the government, who are milking the country, and the poor people will be relying on either going to the garbage, eating all those dirty thing and that kind of thing. And then there is issue of the fashion. The fashion during that time was the bell bottom. The bell bottom were very rampant at that time. And in order to make it even humorous, I have to draw a very large bell bottom whereby some people would hide if the police were looking for them. Especially the miniskirt lady would be hiding in the bell bottom because it was so huge.
Many of the cartoons drawn by the other cartoonists that were active around the time, they seem to be negative about women. It appears there was an environment, an atmosphere of misogyny. How was it like at the time, the attitude towards women?
While other cartoonists will be basing their objective in certain way that women behave there, I try to illustrate how women were exploited and how they could also exploit the men. Because, for instance, when you see Idi Amin at that time, when he look at the young girl that he want, he will go after that. And if you know that that girl or that woman is your woman, you disappear and you take your girl.
Your cartoons seem to be more moderate. They seem to be more lenient towards the women. What explains that difference between your cartoons and those of the fellow cartoonists?
Well, I think during that year, OAU were also talking quite a lot about the equal right for women, and that many people were not respecting the women. They just take their women to be slave and try to exploit them, and not even giving them chance to compete with them. So my idea is just try to highlight that women are very important, give them education, they can become leaders.
Yeah, I also noticed that you cover a number of Pan-African themes, a theme that stretch beyond Uganda. What informed that attitude?
My idea also is to have Africa, other nation, to fight against apartheid, and I would illustrate how oppressed the people in South Africa or in Zimbabwe, and they need their freedom. Without talking about that, the common person in Uganda will not know. So in order to highlight those, I have to do something that present what is going on in South Africa.
But any particular topics that you consider to be very sensitive, no-go areas that you wouldn't touch?
Yes, they don't portray me trying to kill somebody openly. That is a no-no. Once you do that, you go and drink water in the ocean or in the lake.